Hi, this is Luis Souza from rawveganpower.com, and we are here today with a very radical guest, David Favor from radicalhealth.com. Welcome, David. It's so nice to meet you, and I
Yeah, good
love
to meet you. Good
the
to
name
meet you
of your
too.
site. I love this. I love being radical, and you are my idol in that arena.
Oh, well, good. Well, I'm glad that we could help you out there.
Well, I was going through your history, and it's so amazing that you went through 5 near-death experience, and since you were born, it's amazing, and you are here, and you are strong and thriving. It's so fantastic. Could you share your story with our audience, please?
Yeah, I guess I ought to roll that story page on my websites up into a Kindle book, and I think the last update I made was in 0405, which I mean, there's been a bunch of stuff that's happened in the last 7 or 8 years. So yeah, I'm here in one piece and going strong.
Yeah, and I was wondering, did you have any more near-death experience since 2004?
No, I hopefully I'm complete with all those until I make my final transition.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that because we don't wish that someone has this kind of experience. But the first one you had was drinking gasoline. How did that happen?
Well, yeah, that was kind of an odd deal because one of the farm hands that worked for us filled the water bottle my dad had made for me out of a Clorox bottle. I mean, it's big, tall Clorox bottle with, probably 4 or 5 inch letters and big black thick marker water on it. And this farm hand, it wasn't the sharpest tool in the shed, went and dumped the water out and filled it with gasoline because he needed to put some gasoline in a vehicle or something, and then just left it where, I mean, he picked it up, filled it with gasoline, put it back where he found it instead of, I choose to know what this guy was thinking. He was asleep at the wheel. And then, I came along. I was probably about, a few months over 2 years of age, and just, turned that sucker up, and it just flooded down my gullet. So that was a party, buddy.
I can imagine. And your digestive system had a hard trouble with that, right? I think.
Yeah, I guess probably the best way of saying it is that my ability to um, assimilate nutrients across my digestive tract. If you look inside your digestive tract, there's the ecology of all the microorganisms, and then there's a philia line around the intestinal tract, and the interaction between the microbes through the philia is how nutrients transfer from the intestinal tract to the bloodstream. And it took me a long time to figure out that ability in me is just gone, and I had to find much more efficient foods to digest.
And it was good for us, right? I mean,
Yeah, well, it's good.
You
Yeah,
had
it's good
some
for.
hard time, but you discovered so many things and so many
Oh yeah.
wonders for many people, and that was a good result after that, right?
Yeah, I mean, it really was really good for me because I'm probably in far better health, and it gave me the that transitional moment early in life to kind of set the trajectory or the path that I was going to take through life, which I make up that. My story is that we all have a spiritual contract, what we're supposed to get done, and we potentially make agreements about how we bootstrap our mission when we get here. And so, part of my agreement was to learn how to talk about health in a very practical and powerful way. And part of my bootstrap process was going through, drinking gasoline. Because that gave me, I mean, that really did change the whole direction of my life then.
It was like Spider-Man
Yeah,
being bitten,
there
right?
you go. Yeah, that was my. Oh, that's a good. I'm going to use that Spider-Man moments where you get bitten by the radioactive spider and everything changes.
Yeah, and you seem to have had this kind of experience in your life.
Yeah,
And
several times. Yeah.
and I was watching some of your videos, and then you were promoting the raw food diet, and you have that philosophy of tune in, turn on, and take off.
Oh yeah.
It's cool, and I agree with you. Could you tell something about that too?
Yeah, I mean that's there are a lot of diets that are always kind of coming in and out of fad, and it's just interesting to me. Like I know that a lot of my wife and my family and friends think we're somehow crazy because we're doing this weird diet, and to me, I mean, what could be more natural than eating stuff that grows out of the ground? I mean, to me, eating, rotten cadaver, which is what meat is, or animal products that are, squeezed out of animals or made from animals or whatever, or, like eggs or, basically eggs are dead chicken embryos. So, that none of that makes any sense to me. If a person is, if a person's desiring to have their consciousness run at full peak and live for a very, very long time, because you can eat a paleo diet or eat eggs or I mean you could eat anything you like, and eventually you have to pay a price for everything you eat. I mean we're all, to best of my knowledge, we all come in and go out. It's just a matter of how long it's going to be we're here and what the quality of our sojourn here is in life. And for me anyway, I prefer to have a smooth and easy trek through life and to have very high level of energy and mental capacity while I'm here. So that, that's my gig.
Without any food conspiring against that, right?
Right. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean it's really interesting. I got into this conversation, I guess, a few nights ago with a group of people that were. My wife does uh, a, uh, a type of spiritual sort of. I guess it's a discussion circle that runs sometimes two times, at least once a week, and sometimes twice. And we got into this discussion about the what really happens to animals when you factory farm them. It's different if you just you're out hunting on the out in the middle of the woods someplace, and you shoot a rabbit or a deer or something, and they have no idea. In other words, their consciousness just goes from on to off.
Right.
That's different than any kind of factory raised animals, which when they're around other groups of animals in close quarters and around death, they precipitate these what are called adrenal compounds into their tissue, and that stuff is just I mean it's like this elixir of accelerated aging that if you'd like to age really fast, and all you got to do is eat dead carcass and things from dead carcass or live carcass even, and that'll really speed it up.
Yeah, because you get all these hormones and you get in
Yeah.
in yourself. Well,
Yeah, in fact, that's a good point you bring up. Is that there's a reason why 100 years ago uh, young girls would typically reach maturity or puberty 16 to 18, a lot of times even longer along than that. And now we've got there's little girls reaching puberty at 7, 8 years old.
It's
And,
incredible.
there's a reason for that, and it's very simple. I mean, if you take injections of hormones, it's just like, the same injections of hormones they give cattle to speed up their growth in a farm lot. And so, if you got a little girl that begins her period at 7 years old instead of 17, basically that's simple. You just took at least 10 years off your life, right? Because now you're 10 years
Right.
older than you should be. Simple math. And also that means that those people, their bodies have progressed far past their consciousness. I mean, it's very difficult for a 7 or 8 year old girl to have any understanding about what any kind of intimate interaction with another person might be like, or what the consequences of that is. It's completely messed up.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is people are eating all sorts of stuff with adrenal compounds and other hormone substances in them, and accelerating maturity. And so that's a real big consideration if you're choosing to eat so that you're having the maximum longevity, the maximum quality and quantity of your life.
And we are talking only about one thing that's happening in health, right? Because
Oh yeah, that's only one little minor thing.
yeah, well, we can see by your library behind you that you made a lot of research, right? How many books do you have there?
Oh,
You have an idea?
it'd be tough to say. Let's see, 5, 10, 15, 20, 6. Just ballpark guess about 2,000.
And
That's a lot of books.
it's a lot of books.
That's the quick crude count. Plus, there's all sorts of books in boxes around here. So there's probably, I'd probably guess there's at least 2,000 or more books around here.
And the fantastic thing is that you came up with being this Spider-Man that you are, who you are. You came up with fantastic solutions. I was reading rebooting kidney failure, regenerating leukemia, kicking diabetes. It's fantastic. And
Yep.
did you get everything from the books, or did you get from experience? How did you do?
Well, it's a combination. The way that I speak about health is a combination of a lot of direct experience first that came from my specific experience with myself, and then reading both books that are published and medical abstracts and peer-reviewed journals, and then taking my experience and the information that I acquired and coming up with theories and tests and experiments to run. And then when I had a client that would come to me with a specific challenge, then we'd come up with a set of experiments. And, I figure after 10 or 20 people have the same experience, I put that in the category of, oh, that might be something interesting. When, several hundred or several thousand people have the same identical experience,
Right.
I put that in another category of, yeah, that probably works for most everybody.
Oh, I see. You are like a researcher then. You are.
Yeah, and luckily I've been blessed with a community or tribe of people that's collected around me that is, just as strongly engaged with experiential, doing experiments, so they have experiential, direct knowledge of what the effect of an experiment may be. In other words, a lot of people just like to sit around and read, or they sit around and read and then somehow think that what they've read is true. That's a really challenging situation. You can really get yourself in a bind that way. It's better to use the supermarket approach, which is you read everything, you try everything, and whatever works for you, you keep that and leave everything else on the shelf. When you go to the supermarket, you don't get everything off the shelf and try to pile in your basket because, well, most of it's just junk. You wouldn't want it in your basket anyway. In fact, I got a game I play at Whole Foods is find one thing in the person's basket in front of me I'd put in my mouth. And usually it's nothing. Usually the number of things is zero. I mean, it's really
It's
impressive.
amazing.
I mean, it's really impressive the stuff that a so-called uh, health food store is passing off as health products. Anyway, I
It,
better not start down that hole because
yeah,
I'll have very little good to say about Whole Foods.
I see what you mean. But let's talk about superfoods because you made a huge research about that, right?
Yeah, so the way that I define superfoods, and Arai Beckman, a buddy of mine from Brazil, and I were sitting in the office talking about that the other day, and
You were in Brazil the other day.
no, well, actually, he was traveling here.
Oh, I see. Sorry,
Yeah,
sorry.
I may have to go to Brazil though because it sounds he and his wife have been putting some good pressure on us to come and travel to Brazil. So we might head down there. It looks like a pretty good spot to travel to me. Anyway, so he and I were talking, and my definition of superfoods are if you think about your body as an engine, and so you ingest something, and you've got different effects of what you ingest. One effect is the effect on your immediate energy, and really, if you think physiologically and biochemically, what you eat now will never turn into immediate energy. It's always,
Right,
you always process it sometimes for hours or days before what you eat now turns into energy later. It
right,
a better way of saying it is that what you eat now, you know that you've got a high class food, or at least for me, I'm going from the supposition that anyone listening to this is their goal is to live at continuous peak. Otherwise, you should leave now because everything. I mean, none of this will make sense. And
right,
so, for me, the goal is to when I eat something to have a neutral effect on my energy, or maybe a slight elevation of energy. Um, so that's the first thing, and then the next thing is when you eat food, you'll have either deposits or withdrawals from what I call your longevity substance bank. In other words, the substances that are going to allow you to have a long, high quality life. And most foods, when you eat them, make huge withdrawals from your energy bank or your longevity bank. Well, your energy bank too, and your longevity bank. So, what I class as a superfood is a food when I eat it, my energy either stays the same or slightly elevates. I'm making lots of longevity substance bank deposits and very
right.
few withdrawals. And the amount of exhaust or metabolites, in other words, when you eat something, there's always going to be exhaust, as with any engine. And the amount of exhaust is very low, and the energy it takes to break apart the nutrients of the food into, or break apart the complex food components into smaller food components that then can be processed by our microbes in our ecology and then pass across our intestinal boundaries and turn into um, actual substance that we can use in our tissue. The energy that's required for that's very low. So, for example, if you take
I see what you mean.
the whole protein myth, for example, is a really good example. Like if you take a piece of rotten cadaver from your grocery store that they might call a steak or ground beef, and you burn that, then first off, you're taking the substances in there and you're completely changing them with heat, so you're congealing them. With the raw paleo diet, then you got the problem of if you don't cook it and eat it raw, then you got the problem with parasites, and I think that's probably even worse.
Yeah, I can see what you mean for
And
sure.
so the challenge of any kind of meat product like that is that there is some protein in the tissue. The challenge is the amount of protein and the quality of protein is so low. It takes way more energy to extract the protein than you'd ever get from eating it. Now, most people are really confused about this because, and in fact, I've heard a lot of raw vegans now that have switched over to raw paleo eating and eating eggs. And they say they're doing that because of energy, but really that's incorrect. Really what's happening is that they're eating a substance that's toxic like methamphetamines, and so their body has a natural adrenaline response to it. If you eat something toxic, your body instantly ramps up to get that out as fast as possible. And so if you eat something like, if you drink coffee or you eat eggs or anything that's extremely toxic to your system,
Mm-hmm.
you'll feel a serious rush of energy as your body elevates. Your adrenaline starts pumping to get that out. That doesn't mean it's good for you, right? And it doesn't
Right.
mean it doesn't mean you're actually receiving any type of useful energy from that. In fact, if you feel a huge spike in energy when you eat something, that instantly tells you it's toxic, because anything you eat today, like I said, may be hours or days or longer before you actually turn that substance into energy. You never eat something today and have energy from it instantly, unless it's something like a very pre-digested food like cacao or blue-green algae would be a good example. If you take blue-green algae and put it under your tongue, after a few minutes you will begin to feel a slight elevation if you're deficient in essential sugars and amino acids and minerals that are found in there, and the bioflavonoids or the phytonutrients. But if you eat like some kind of something from your local fast food, or anyway, none of that sensation of energy is real. It's a fake adrenal response. Anyway, that's
I didn't know that. People feel
that
so energized, but they aren't. It's incredible. And exploring a little bit more about this that you are talking about, you came up with the idea of chocolate bliss following
oh yeah.
this track, right?
Yeah, I guess we've been manufacturing chocolate bliss in various forms now for, let's see, 13, almost 8 years now, I guess. Wow, that's a long time.
And you were like, I was reading the formula, and it's like an alchemy, right? I don't know what you did that there, but it has a huge impact in people, right?
Yeah, I had, I, I choose to know if I can really take credit for that, because I think I had a lot of impetus from Spirit for how to formulate chocolate bliss. And if I had to redo it today, I'd probably give up, because I probably went through 3,000 or more iterations of recipe before that we came up with that specific, or I came up with that specific version. And even saying I mean, it's like I had little whispers in my ear of, do this, do that, change this, change that. So it's challenging for me to think of it as something that I did. It was more of a group effort of, whatever spiritual sponsorship I got here in this plane, I guess, is maybe a good way of saying it.
And where do you sell them? Sell the chocolate bliss? I mean, I have never seen it in Brazil. That's my question.
Are you in Brazil?
I am in Brazil.
Oh, okay. Shipping things to Brazil is that's an interesting thing, trying to get stuff through customs, because you'll lose about 40 or 50% of it
Oh yeah.
to the customs officials. Most people that use our products in Brazil just when they come over here to the States, they'll buy from a dealer here and pack a suitcase or two with superfoods and just take them back in their luggage. And that'll keep them for a few months, and the next time they come back, they do the same thing.
So I would assume that chocolate bliss is all over the world right now. Many people are interested
Yeah,
in
I
80
think
years.
I think we sell in I think we're selling in 10 countries now, and people in their luggage, I guess smuggle's not a right word, but people transit our products into their countries, probably another, probably a dozen countries or so. It's really tough getting things through, you know, through the mail to people in places like Brazil and South Africa, and you just pretty much have to. Anytime you're making a trip over here, you have to pick it up yourself.
And do you sell it all over the US?
Oh yeah, I'm guessing we probably have maybe 100 or so people selling it in the U.S.
Oh, that's cool. And do you have the factory that produces it, or it's something outsourced? Sourced?
It's very our production is a bit ad hoc, meaning that different products get different manufactured in different places, and my ideal is to have everything produced in one place. And also, are you familiar with HPP technology? Have you ever heard that?
No.
HPP means that you take a liquid and take it down to 2 or 3 atmospheres of pressure in a nitrogen bath, and so in essence, it's a cold pasteurization process, and so you
Oh,
can pasteurize without heat. So my ideal would be to have chocolate bliss made with my particular form of water, because that makes a huge difference, and to go through my exact process of how I make it personally, and then package the liquid in bottles and HPP process them so that they usually an HPP processed liquid will have a 40 to 50 day shelf life.
oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean it's a long. I mean, compared to like if I just packaged chocolate bliss and tried to send it, someplace in the mail, it would have to be in dry ice, or it would have to go through distribution where it was kept cold. And HPP is room temperature. After you process it, that shelf life is room temperature, so you can just ship it different places.
Oh, that
There's
would be
no
great.
requirement. Pardon me?
That would be great.
Oh yeah, it'd be fantastic. So that eventually, I hope to have that available.
And chocolate bliss is a raw formula, right? That's the
Well,
reason.
yeah, I mean, to me, it's an odd thing talking about raw products. I mean, for me, raw means that, if you're living on like the backside of Hana, Maui, and you walk out to your mango tree and pull something off your mango or avocado tree, and you eat something from, some kind of plant that you picked, to me, that's really raw.
Right.
Everything we eat here, to me, isn't really raw because it's been shipped around. Even the stuff that's grown locally has been, you know, on sitting on the shelf for days or weeks before we get access to it. So for me personally, everything we eat here, it doesn't really meet my criteria of raw. It's kind of a trade-off, and then there's bigger trade-offs like uh, agave nectar, for example. There's no really raw agave nectar because you have to process it at a between 110 to 130 degrees at the low end, which is what we do. A lot of them go up to 160 to 200 plus degrees because the hotter you get the liquid, the faster it uh, evaporates water, and you can get it into a syrup. So to me, nothing we have is really raw, and compared to what most people eat, it's way, way raw. So it's all a trade off, and doing the best you can with whatever you have access to.
And talking again about superfoods in general, I was reading in your blog. I just saw the topic, and I'd like to ask you why superfoods only work for some people.
Define work.
I'm not sure. I read that in your blog, in your site, and there was this topic, and I think it was an interview you gave or something that.
Probably what I was talking about was people who are attempting to eat like a SAD diet, a standard American diet, and then add superfoods in with it. because they'll feel awful. I mean,
Oh, I see what you mean.
so for example, if you went out and ate some sort of hamburger, fries, pastry, dessert, milkshake at some fast food restaurant, and then, half an hour or an hour later, felt that food coma come on, which is basically a person's digestive system crashing. I mean, it's basically they've exhausted their ability to deal with what they ate, and now they're passed out. That's what that food coma is. If you, down the road after eating something like that, dump into your system a big glass of chocolate Bliss, it's going to be bad. I mean, people just feel awful because that the superfoods will they'll basically go to war with anything that's downscale and try to clear it out, and that may produce a lot of uncomfortable sensations. So I tell people, if you're desiring to come upscale in your health, you got to come upscale. You can't keep part of it downscale and part of it upscale because you're going to just feel awful.
So basically, if you want to have the best results with superfoods, you should have a clean slate, right? A clean body.
Yeah, I mean, and you can do that in a transitional way. Like for example, as you're transitioning, what you do is drink chocolate Bliss first thing in the morning on an empty stomach before you ate junk. And more than likely, your desire for eating junk is going to disappear very quickly. In fact, that's one of the things we've been telling people over the past few years is the way you start with superfoods is just you start with enzymes. We package an enzyme ourselves. You start with enzymes and then make a gallon of chocolate Bliss and just eat enzymes, water, and chocolate Bliss until the whole gallon's gone. Might be a day, might be 2 days, might be better part of 3 days. Just do water, enzymes, and chocolate Bliss until the first gallon's gone. And usually that will reboot a person's palate to a point where they kind of lose interest or have less of a desire for downscale or junk food.
So it's interesting. It's a process the person will go through, and very quickly they will be craving good things, good food.
Oh yeah, yeah. If you think about our bodies are really, really smart. We'll tend to have a desire for what gets us the best nutrient ratio. So if we are requiring a specific nutrient, then our bodies will know what we've eaten in the past, and we'll choose from what we know. And a lot of people, they have no experience with superfoods, and so if they drink a gallon of chocolate Bliss and eat enzymes and water for a day or two, their body then will have a new source of material to draw from, and a person's body will then begin to prefer that source over something else. Because our bodies are, our biological intelligence is really astounding. And so just a little bit of new input of really high density nutrient food, and our bodies just kind of lose interest in anything else.
I see what you mean. Well, we talked about the past, about your near-death experiences, and let's talk about the future now. What are your plans for radicalhealth.com, and what do you have for us in the future?
Well, so the primary activity that I've been working on for the last 6 months is to develop a book generator that kicks out what's called KF8 code, and what that is the Amazon Kindle book specification. And so I'm pretty much finished with that. I'm always making little minor tweaks now, and it pretty much works. And what I intend on doing is, or my goal in developing this tool was to come up with a tool that could take just raw text. You don't have, there's no using a, Microsoft Word or PDFs or anything else. You just take raw text and run it through this, and you got a Kindle book. And so my idea was, or my goal was, to be able to publish content at the speed of a blog post, but do that as Kindle books. So publish Kindle books as fast as I could make a blog post. And
Oh, that's fantastic.
yeah, and so for example, you can one way to use this might be say you've got say you've got a health interview series, and for me, I talk at a rate of about 30 175 word pages a minute or an hour. And so I know that every 3 hours of interviews, I got, 100 pages worth of book.
Right.
And so one easy way to generate content is you could just, for example, take your recording from what we do here today and hand it off to a transcriber on, you know what Fiverr.com is?
I know.
Yeah, so you hand it off to a transcriber that'll transcribe, 15 to 20 minutes for $5. So that'll, cost you for an hour. It'll cost between $15 to $20. And then you take that text, and you could even, I could envision even teaching a transcriber to put it into the format that this book generator consumes to, do the headers and terms that are going to end up in the index and what's bolded and highlighted and noted in different ways.
That's great.
And maybe that costs you $5 for every 10 minutes or every 5 minutes. It makes no difference. I mean, my goal was to be able to take an hour to 3 hours worth of conversations and turn that into a book. So basically, a book every at least every week. And so that's my goal in the future, is to take all my new content and then go back to all my past content, which is we were talking about this before. I think I did an inventory and came up with over 4,000 hours of health audio recordings and 2,000 hours of marketing recordings and 1,000 articles of around health. And I choose down how many thousand articles about marketing and business I've written over the years. If you think about it, though, like most people, produce a blog and they have, all this really interesting content, and it's free.
Right.
So then they have to go through the whole drill of, or the process of figuring out how to monetize their content. Better to just take that content and publish it in a micro compensation model like Amazon, where you publish a book for $2.99 to $9.99 instead of what we normally think of like a $20 to $50 book. You publish up small books in Amazon and do that on a very regular basis. Also means if you're publishing in electronic format, you can take, for example, a book today or an hour-long conversation today, and you can make that into a book and say, okay, I'm publishing this book today. And this is going to be the next volume in the series. Like say the series is I don't know, like a health series that you're doing, and so you publish the first interview, and it's $2.99 for a book, and then you're going to add interviews to that book until you bring the number of interviews up to 10, and then you go to the next volume. But every time you add one, you add $1 or $2 to the price.
I see. Fantastic.
And then, so the incentive is for people to buy the book early, and so they get all the updates for free.
Oh, cool.
And so
you already have the first book, right? I'm showing the Beautiful Business, Living.
Oh yeah, that's a
What You Love.
Yeah, in fact, that's I'm about to publish a new version of that here in the next couple of days. That adds. I think it adds 10 or 12, maybe close to 15 additional chapters. So that's really, I mean, if you think about a physical book, that would be very difficult. If you release a new edition of a physical book, it's not really an edition. You really have to release a new volume because you're adding content. With a Kindle book, if you'd like to do an edition update, you just add some content, fix typos, expand things that you may have been, somebody says, well, I read this in your book and I ain't got a clue what that means, so, flesh it out or expand or clarify. So it's very easy to do that in electronic form, and then once once that form is run through several hundred readers and they find all the typos, all the clarification places, the additional content that requires to be added, then what you do, and you take that book and you flip it. And what flipping means is flipping is when you take a book that's sold. Most book agents like to see at least 1,000 copies a month for 6 months. And flipping a book means that you take the book to a physical publisher and then you sell that book to some big publishing house like Time Warner or what's the guys? 10 Speed is another big one. Anyway, there's a whole bunch of different book publishers.
I see.
But the way you do that is you have to prove that you got the sales before somebody will pay you, $1 million advance on a book.
Right.
So, and that may sound like a lot of money, but the book agent that I'm going to use anyway, the only one I'm unwilling to work with anybody else. I'm only willing to work with her. She's the book agent for Mark Victor Hansen and Bob Allen, the guys that do Chicken Soup and all the Bob Allen books, of which there are probably 30 or 40 now. And I think she's up to 7 or 8 authors, first-time authors, that she's gotten 7-figure book advances.
Ooh,
so that's for their first book.
I really hope that you get that.
Well, and even
fantastic.
Even if I don't, I could really care less because knowing what I know about Kindle today, if you think about it, you can use the Kindle publishing platform and you can generate income in all sorts of ways. So, for example, if I go to Brazil, first off, it's a tax write-off because I'm going to go down there and take video footage and photographs and publish them for sale.
I see.
So everything I eat down there, all my lodging, my travel, everything is a write-off because now I'm a travel writer.
Just because you are traveling.
Well, and for that to work, though, you actually have to take a lot of photos and video footage and put it up on someplace like iStock Photo and sell it.
Right.
You can't just say you're a travel writer and produce no work, right?
Right.
If you go someplace like most of the time, the places we travel are in the tropics, and so there's beautiful flowers and trees and water. There's lots of different beautiful things to take pictures of and footage.
Right.
So that's basically everything I'm doing now. Really is focused on refining, working with Amazon Books, and then also I'm almost to a point where the book generator that I wrote allows you to build themes to our skins to give books different formats. So I'm also going to work on a format for Yamaya's, all her recipes, and I mean she's probably got, good Lord, I choose to know how many, probably 3,000 or 4,000 recipes. And all those, can be easily rolled up into, recipe books with maybe 10 or 12 recipes that go with different topics like entrees or Italian entrees or Brazilian entrees, Brazilian desserts, Brazilian appetizers, and then Moroccan. Every different ethnicity has the same things. You've got appetizers, entrees, sides, and desserts. That's 4 books per ethnicity. And, there's hundreds of ethnicities.
Oh, yeah, right. And the good thing is that you reach much more people, right?
Oh, yeah.
With your
right
message.
now, Amazon in the U.S. is responsible for 60% of all the credit card swipes for any online purchase goes through Amazon right now. So, the numbers of purchases that are going on there are just astronomical.
Well, let me ask you my last question to you, Dave, now.
Sure.
It's a huge question, but with a small answer.
Okay, all right.
In one sentence, comparing the person you were before with the person you are now, what is your raw vegan power?
Are you referring to what the single thing is that I rely on the most, or what? Clarify your
Yeah,
question some. Well,
it could
give me
be.
your answer. What's your answer? And so I kind of get the context.
Nobody did that before. This
Well,
question.
I'm trying to get the context of your question because I could answer it in a whole bunch of different ways.
Well, when I think about the raw vegan diet and then to be a raw vegan power for me is no depression because
Mm,
after being a raw vegan, I realized that I was depressed before and I'm not anymore. It was
good.
incredible. I feel fantastic now, and I didn't feel that way. I felt bad most of the time, and I would say depressed. And now I
Cool.
don't feel it anymore.
Yeah, I used to have really bad depression and anxiety attacks too, so bad that I'd just have to lock my door to my office and people knew not to come in here. And I would literally, there were times I ended up in a fetal position in close to a catatonic or psychotic break state on the floor. It was bad.
Really, and this would
So,
be before the raw vegan diet.
yeah, in fact, specifically before I figured out about trace minerals and the big effect that things like chromium and cobalt in copper in correct small quantities the effects have. So I guess my raw vegan power, I'd say that the source of my raw vegan power is my ability to listen to what I think is spirit telling me what to do, and then to test that to make sure I come out with something that's real. And then the effect I have, or the outcome that I have from my source of raw vegan power is, my quality of life is so far exceeding most people that I know. I mean, even people that are in the raw vegan community, when I meet them, especially I like talking with people that have been, doing raw vegan types of technologies for 10 or 20 years. Those are the people or more. Like I know one guy that's been doing it for 40, 45 years now, and so those people, they have a body of wisdom and knowledge that it ain't out of some book they read, yesterday, and now they think they're a raw vegan expert. If you do something for 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, you know more about that topic than most people. And so
Sure.
I really like talking with people that have been doing it a long time. And one of the things I notice is that most people that are eating a raw vegan diet, there are a couple of challenges they seem to have. One is a lot of them are emaciated and weak, and I mean I'm solid. The other is a lot of people who are eating, especially the 80-10-10 diet, I think it's what it's called. They show the same sort of long-term dehydration and aging that people eating a macrobiotic diet eat. And I think it's just because the amount of sugar they're eating is so high. Uh, so, the primary consideration I'd say about, people that are, if you're trying to develop your own raw vegan power, the way that you track it or measure is you look at your skin,
I see.
right? And your skin should begin to become younger and younger every day instead of older and older. That was the big thing for me. That was one of the first things that changed, was the quality of my skin began to youth. The other is having a consistently peak experience of both energy throughout the day, from when you get up to when you lay down at night, and then when you lay down at night, you go to sleep fast and sleep deep and wake up ready to go again. So that constant level of energy. And then what you were talking about, mood, is also have a constant level of extreme. I wouldn't call it euphoria, because it's different than, for me anyway, it's different than like a drug-induced euphoria like ayahuasca or LSD. My state of consciousness, I avoid drugs like that anymore because they take me out of my high. What I like about superfoods is that I stay at this high peak of energy and mood, and also aptitude, my ability to process information, and I'm very productive. I mean, I could. It used to be I could artificially, create a situation where I rose above my depression, but then I'd crash again, and then it'd be even worse. And even when I was high, that was a type of high that was unproductive. I couldn't concentrate. Right? I mean, you know, if you drop acid, or if you do ayahuasca, you're going to have to recover from that for weeks. Acid, it'll take days to recover from. I'd rather be at a high plateau where that I'm constantly at this peak plateau, and I'm also able to be very productive while I'm there. So that's just my.
Did that improve over the years for you?
Oh yeah, used to be I could barely hold my train of thought. I tend to be in my natural state. It's a little bit challenging for me to follow through on things and get things done. And what I've noticed with superfoods is that I'm able to prioritize and start projects and finish them way, way, way better. I mean, night and day better than before.
And one thing, I think you are going to be 53 this year, right?
Yeah, let's see. This year is what year are we in? 2000. Yeah, I'll be this July. I'll be 53. Wow.
And I'm assuming you, with your story, you are more productive now than you were in your 20s or 30s.
Oh yeah, and way more healthy too. I looked terrible in my 20s because I was still dealing with a lot of the residue of my inability to digest food, and also even the precipitant material from all that gasoline. I think was still, you know, when you ingest petrochemicals, that stuff is hard to get out of your body unless you really are clear about how to you know, chelate or eliminate that material from your body. Yeah, that's a very conscious activity. It ain't something that just somehow happens accidentally. At least it wasn't for me. I really had to focus. Oh, and this is really interesting. So when I had that petroleum in my system, I think it's what it was anyway, was my eyes. If you look at my eyes today, they're very light blue.
Mm-hmm.
And back when I was in my 20s, you know, years ago, my sclera was very kind of brown. You know, the white part of a person's eyes, their sclera. That was sort of brown, very darkish and milky. And then you couldn't tell the difference between my iris and my pupil. They were dark black.
Oh.
And so, you know, over time, as the years have gone by, my eyes have gotten clearer and clearer and clearer. So now they're, you know, pretty. I mean, if you look at my eyes with a flashlight, you can make out all the different features in my earological landscape, my eye landscape.
So we could see that you were detoxing all these years, right?
Yeah, in fact, you can even, that's one of the things I used to show people how to do that had chemical and metal toxicity in their system is, and you can do it yourself. If you take a flashlight, I have no flashlight here right now, but if you take a flashlight and you shine it straight across your eye like this from the side,
mm-hmm.
and you lean up into a glass like in a mirror in a bathroom so that the light shines across your eye, then if you look in your eye, if you see any kind of colored rings that are, you know, look like they shouldn't be there, well, they shouldn't. So colored rings or colored splotches are dots of bright orange or red or pink or yellow. Those are all indications of usually either metals or organophosphates, the chemicals they spray on crops. And so you can track how well your body is cleaning up by those features, those artifacts of toxicity that are showing up in your eyes will disappear.
Oh, that's cool.
So it's really interesting to watch how your eyes change over time.
Yeah, I never heard about that, but I saw the other day Christina Bucharan, who is a raw vegan, she made a video showing that her eyes changed color as well.
Oh, cool.
That should be the reason. You gave an explanation about that.
Yep.
Now, fantastic. Thank you so much, David. It was a pleasure and an honor to interview you and meet you today, and I hope we do meet other times too.
What part of Brazil do you live in?
I live near São Paulo. It's
Oh, okay.
Londrina. Londrina.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I know a number of people that are in the São Paulo area.
Oh,
With
and if
the
you come
traffic.
here, I would love if you come here in Londrina and and visit us too, because
Oh, for sure. Yeah, when we head out to Brazil, I'll have a long list of people to hook up with and meet because a lot of them I've just met like you over Skype or Google Hangouts.
fantastic. Well,
Excellent.
thank you so much for the interview today, and
You're
let's
welcome.
meet again. Let's keep in touch. And
Oh yeah, so
you,
yeah, anytime you'd like to do this again, just
let's
let me
do it.
know. We'll do it again.
It will be a pleasure. And maybe if you have some new product or something you want to promote, I will be very happy to help you in that too. Thank you, Dave.
Excellent. You're very welcome. Take care.
Thank you. And you who are watching, go now to radicalhealth.com or davidfavor.com and visit there to see all the great stuff
Cool.
this Spider-Man David Favor has to offer you.
The Spider-Man effect.
Yeah,
I'm going to be using that. That's just too good. I really like it.
sure, and you should do that. Ciao. See you later. Bye bye.
Ciao.